Hello everyone, I'm Dennis George for Channel 6 TV Community Focus. And today we have with us the new Executive Director of the Marion County Chamber of Commerce, Greg Ribbons. And Greg, welcome to us.
Thank you very much.
Well, and you're the new Executive Director of the Chamber, but as many people know, you're not new to Marion County.
No, I was born and raised here, went to school in this very building where we're speaking today, and so I'm very familiar with Lebanon, and it's great to be back home.
Well, when you say you went to school here, it probably wasn't in quite this good a condition.
No.
It was probably kind of winding down or whatever. Tell us what year it was, maybe, or can you remember?
Let's just say it was in the 70s when I was in this building.
Okay.
And I can remember all of these rooms in this building very well.
Okay. Go ahead and talk a little bit about your family that's still here. A lot of people may know, may not know, mom and aunts and uncles and daddies and mothers and sisters and brothers and nephews or whatever, but talk about some of your kinfolk. Let people know.
My mother, Judy, is here in town and a lifelong resident. I have a brother, Michael, that's still here in town, and my brother, Roger, is in Bardstown. And I have aunts in town, Janet Horton and Helen Spalding. Are all here, and numerous cousins, too numerous to mention. So I have strong family ties to this community and have maintained those strong family ties for many years.
Well, and
for all my life, actually.
Yeah, and people may realize that I've heard that voice before, and I guess it started with J.T. Whitlock. Let's go all the way back.
Yes, I started with J.T. Whitlock my senior year in high school. I had been active in high school drama and activities at the high school. JT calls me one day and asked me if I was interested in a part-time job, and of course I jumped at the opportunity, and I fell in love with radio from the day that I walked in the door at WLBN and LSK, and started there with his help and others, and have spent 35 years in the radio business.
So they recognize the voice because you've been on the air, and you've started 2 radio stations from the ground up. And I'm trying to think, was it the one in Springfield, MQQ or something?
WMQQ at 102.7. It has different call letters now, but I was involved with that startup from the very beginning. That was in 1988 or 89. And then WVLC in Campbellsville in 1995. I was involved with that startup as well. So I was in those buildings before they were actually on the air.
Okay, and I would venture to say one of your great moments in radio was in '93 at the state tournament?
Yes. I had the pleasure of being able to, and I had a close relationship with Tim Davis for my broadcasting, but you and I and some others got the opportunity to have the inside look of following that team behind the scenes, in addition to the on-air following those 2 great teams back to back. And as far as a highlight, there's nothing like calling a basketball game, a sporting event, inside Rupp Arena. I mean, you can go to other venues, and I've been to several, including football, very big football venues, but there's something about, as a broadcaster, sitting on the floor at Rupp Arena and calling a basketball game.
Okay, so you're doing a championship game that night. Did you have something in mind that you were going to say when the game was over if Marion won?
No, actually, I was not broadcasting that year.
Okay.
For some reason.
How was that?
Yes.
Okay.
So, but the year before,
okay, when
we made it all the way to the state tournament, but I was with the team.
Right.
I was a chaperone with the team, and I remember making it when we won the regional tournament, and we made it to the state tournament, getting up there for the first time ever. That was the first appearance ever for a Marion County boys basketball team in the state tournament, and it was spectacular.
It was scary, I guess, as we look back, that Dennis George and Greg Ribbons were chaperoning 15 to 18-year-old boys, right?
Right.
And I could tell a few stories about the next year, but I probably don't need to get into those. But obviously that was your broadcast career, and you've been in Campbellsville for a number of years. And as you come to this chamber job, you don't just bring managerial experience. You were quite involved with the Chamber of Commerce and did quite a bit for them over in Campbellsville.
Yes. Like Lebanon, the Taylor County, Campbellsville-Taylor County Chamber of Commerce is very active in the community, very visible in the community. And, I was fortunate to be able to work through the chamber and do some activities there throughout the years. And then also the 4th of July celebration, which is the biggest event of the year there, over the last 8 years especially, when we reorganized the board and started a new effort with the 4th of July celebration over there. So I've been very active in those two things. So I'm very familiar with Ham Days to begin with, the biggest activity here, but I'm also very familiar with the inner workings of organizing a large community festival, which is a tremendous asset, starting this job 1 month before Ham Days.
Which brings me, and I'm going to go back to some of the, well, let's go with that first. The 4th of July celebration in Campbellsville, and unfortunately I've had the misfortune of driving through Campbellsville that morning and coming back that afternoon from a golf tournament, but that is one major event over there that, as you said, I guess at one time was, if you look at a spiral, was on the downside, but it's really become a big thing over there. What were some of the things you did there to help improve it, and then we'll get into what you want to do with those things as you come to Lebanon?
Well, with any event like that, it starts with goals. And when we reorganized that particular event 8 years ago, it started in 1976, actually. And the board decided to retire after many years of participation, which is understandable. Mm-hmm. And we thanked them very much for their service and understood why, that they wanted to pass it on to a new group. Well, the discussion initially became, well, what do we want this celebration to be? What do we want this event to be? What's our goal? What do we want it to look like? And then from there, you start piecing it all together. It all starts there, and then a critical piece of anything like that is funding. So we had to address, if we want to get from here to there, how do we pay for it? And one of the things about that particular event is everything is free. That it's listed in the charter of the celebration, is that every event has to be free, and that includes children's entertainment, which we have a fun zone there, but it's all volunteers and absolutely free. The breakfast itself is free, done by the church, one of the churches there. So that addressing that right off the bat. Well, we'd like to do a breakfast. Well, we'd like to do this. We'd like to do that, but we can't charge admission for anything. So you have to find sponsors for all of that. And so that became quickly our focus of finding local businesses and letting them know that we want to keep this celebration alive. We have goals, but we need sponsors. And that's what we did. We went out and stopped taking donations, which a lot of small festivals have done. They go out and ask for money in the community. We stopped asking for donations and started selling sponsorships, and that was our biggest change right there. We changed the value and the sponsorship opportunities, and from there it really kind of blossomed and has grown every year in sponsorships and some of the things that we want to do.
Okay, you mentioned you take this job basically end of August, 1st of September.
September 1.
Okay, all right, first day. Less than a month before Ham Days. Mm-hmm. So in the first month, basically a lot of the planning for Ham Days has been done. But is this a time, how do you prepare for the biggest event in the community less than a month on the job?
Well, this event and all those who have organized it in the past, there are guidelines that have been put to paper, and there's a manual basically of how to put this event on. And that's what I've been studying basically from the very first day, is looking over and becoming familiar with all of the small things that have to be done leading up to Ham Days in the last month. After Ham Days, I can look at what has to be done in January, and and those things, because it is a year-round planning process to put on this 2-day event. So right now my focus is on all of the activities that have to be done leading up to Ham Days, the small things, the behind-the-scenes things that people just don't recognize or don't even notice, but have to be done in order to put together, to make this successful.
Okay, and obviously you will be doing a lot of observing now through the end of the festival. Sometimes it's good to get a unbiased set of eyes, a different look, an outsider's look at how it goes. Mm-hmm. Will you then, along with your chamber board and the Ham Days committee, once it's over, do you then start looking at maybe down the road things we need to toss out, bring in, and make changes, or is that kind of too far down the road to think about?
No, I don't think so. I think with any event, you should constantly look at ways to be more efficient, to make it better, to make it bigger if that is the goal. But my focus this year will be to observe a lot of it will be to observe and see, from having put together events, watching how we do things, because it's easy to fall into the routine of, well, we've always done it this way, and we really haven't thought about what we can do differently. And that would be my focus. That's my focus this year, is to observe and to present to the board my observations on what I think are areas to address, and figure out if there's a better way to do it.
And sometimes, and I know we're not being critical, but we've always done it this way. You hear that with a lot of organizations. Mm-hmm. And maybe sometimes, as you say, an outsider's view, or someone who has experienced things done a little differently, mm-hmm. can help take any type of activity or event to a different level.
Yes.
And like I said, we're not being critical of anything, it's just a different viewpoint.
If I've learned nothing over the last 35 years, one of the first things that I always tell any group or organization or business that I go into, if I am the new manager or whatever, please do not tell me we've always done it this way. That's one of the things that I don't like to hear. I want you to tell me why it's always been done this way. And if it's the best way to do it, then we need to stick with it. But please don't give me as an answer when I ask, well, why do we do this way? Well, that's the way it's always been done. That's not the answer. The answer is it's because it's the most efficient way to do it, or that's the way to spell it out to me. Giving me the answer, we've always done it that way, doesn't help me at all.
As you came in and you went through the interview process, what did you sell yourself? How did you sell yourself to the interview committee and to the chamber board? What is it that you said Greg Gribbins is the right guy to bring to this job?
Well, in many ways, I think I've been preparing for this job for my entire professional career, because one of the unique things about radio is that we deal with every aspect of a community. We deal with businesses because of advertising. We deal with industries. We deal with educators. We deal with government. We deal with the general public. So that kind of prepared me for a job like this, where it's the same thing. We are dealing with every business, every type in this community, and should be working towards serving those. And also from the festival background, it kind of gives me a unique perspective of how to look at Ham Days, how to think in terms of, I know how to organize one of these things and see all of the things that it takes to put one of these together. So that kind of, like I said, I think I've been preparing for this for 35 years.
Well, and in your radio career, you've done news.
Yes.
You've done sales.
Mm-hmm.
You've been an on-air personality. You've been in management. So, dealing personally from a news standpoint,
mm-hmm.
you have to do things differently in news than you would in sales.
Yes.
So, there's different facets in each position in your radio career that you have to bring here. It's not just that I was in radio and I dealt with these people, because you had to deal with them in different areas.
Yes, and you ask different questions depending on what position. If you're a news person, you ask a different question of someone than if you are a salesperson or if you're a management person. So the key is knowing what questions to ask in whatever the situation. So that broadens your ability to be able to see things in a different way too.
Well, I know in the past in doing news, someone would say, wait a minute, watch how you do that story. And I've read about this and heard about from major newspapers, say Lexington Herald and a car dealer. Mm-hmm. You don't want to do something against the car industry because so many car dealers advertise with us. So you have to kind of watch how you do. Right. So it's a matter, though, that, and I always fought that, because I always felt like if I'm doing the news, I do it the way I think news should be done, and to heck with the advertising part, but that's what pays the bills. But as you said, you understand that each of those groups have to work hand in hand to make it work. So as you're dealing with committees, you're dealing with different kinds of businesses, those things come into play.
Exactly, and you have to understand from the management standpoint, that's when you look at all aspects of it. You have to look at, and you cannot let that completely, you can't let the advertiser part of it completely dominate the fairness part of it and writing the story. But you also cannot look at the aspect of, if you're putting together a story about a particular business, for instance, you can't go in with an attitude of, that it's a really hard hit toward this particular business. That's where the management comes in. Is this really the angle that you want to take, that you're after? And that would be true of a business whether it was an advertiser or not. Mm-hmm. I mean, you have to step back sometimes from, and I've done it many times. It's just step back and look at, how am I saying this? So it's a matter of perspective.
And as you come into this chamber job, how you deal with different businesses, competing businesses. You got 2 food service, right, 2 restaurants. How you deal with one versus how you deal with the other. Make sure you're fair to both. You have to bring all those, because with the chamber you're dealing with individuals, retail, wholesale, industrial. You're dealing with a wide variety of members, and you have to balance that as well.
And the radio background is one of the best things to help you with that, because in a given day in radio you may deal with 3 car dealers, 3 retailers that are competing, 2 banks that are competitors. You may deal with that all in one day. So that's great preparation for what you'll see and hear in the chamber. But knowing now, there's a different goal now that I have when I'm dealing with businesses than what I would have from dealing with them from radio.
Trying to sell them something instead of just asking them to be a member.
or finding out what the chamber can do for them. That's part of now. I've dealt with radio as being a service and an asset to a business, because our goal is to generate traffic for them. Well, in a lot of ways, the chamber should be the same way. We should find out what things we can do as a chamber to help every individual business, no matter how small, no matter how large, even if it is an industry. There are certain things that the chamber can do to help these businesses, and we need to find out from those what we can do to help.
Okay, because I would venture to say that typically a lot of people write a check to the chamber for their membership.
Exactly.
It's just one of those things that every year we write a check, we join the chamber, but then there are those who probably, instead of just routinely writing a check, will say, things are tight, I need to cut back. Maybe I really don't get anything out of my membership with the chamber, so I'm not going to join this year. What is your answer to those people who will say, well, what does the chamber do for me?
Well, first off, I look at the chamber membership not as a member. I would much rather think of the businesses in the community as our partners. As us, the Chamber of Commerce should be a vital part of your business strategy. Use the chamber for the assets that we have. the resources that we can gather for you that you can't do as an individual small business, but there's strength in numbers. There are things that we can do as a group that we can't do individually. So that's what the chamber should be doing, constantly looking for those things that help these individual businesses all become better, because that's what we should be. We should be partners with every business in the community. We shouldn't, membership is more, I think, as a country club. The Chamber of Commerce should have partners, and that's the way that I kind of approach this, is that, I want to be your partner. There's the value that the chamber gives to every individual business. If I can be your partner, then I want to be a resource for you. If I'm your partner, then you will turn to me when you need something that you can't get anywhere else. And that's what I want everyone in this community to think of the chamber when they sign that check, to think, okay, I've just signed a partnership. I've added a valuable tool to my business that will help it grow, and I know that if I need something, I should be able to contact the chamber and get that information that I can't get anywhere else, or to help my business. And that should be our goal for every no matter how small, no matter how large. That should be our goal.
Okay, as you come in, you have a month before Ham Days. Then there's let's review Ham Days while it's fresh. You've dealt with a lot of people in the community on an advertising basis, so you've called on a lot of them and gotten to know them. Then what's the process to get out as you prepare for 2016? Do you try to get into the door of everybody and shake their hand, and I'm Greg Gribbins? Talk about that a little bit, because I'm sure you have a good number of members to go see.
I want to see all the businesses, and ask. I want the input from every business, from Main Street to Bradfordsville to Loretta to wherever there's a business in this county. I want to talk to you, and if I haven't walked in your business, call my office and say, come on by, stop by. I'm familiar with a lot of businesses in town, but I'm not familiar with every business in town. I want to become familiar with every business in town, but in this learning process, if there's someone out there that's just stop by, just see me, and because I've got a question, or I have a suggestion. We shouldn't be closed to suggestions, because there are people that have been operating businesses for many, many years in this community who have observed a lot of things, but have we ever asked for their opinion on, or a suggestion on what they think the chamber should be? What's our goal as a community? That should be what the chamber should be, leading the effort, and what our goal is as a business community. Where do we want to be 5 years from now?
Which means you're also working hand in hand with economic development, city government, county government, Board of Education as well.
Yes, it's all that partnership. It's that vital partnership that if you have all of these spokes working together, the wheel's going to be stronger. But if the chamber it doesn't do its part, is not a positive partner, then by building up the businesses, it all kind of feeds into a government stronger if we have strong business. Schools are stronger if we have strong business. The community is stronger if we have strong businesses. And many times it's a perception thing. Is there a perception problem? Is there, what do we need to be doing to build up this community, to say to people looking in, that are on the outside looking in, yes, Marion County is open for business, and it's far ahead of other communities. That's where I need to look first if I want to open a retail shop, or I want to open up a new industry or anything. You can quickly look at a community and say, well, they're weak here and they're weak there, but if all the aspects of the community are strong, then people are going to notice